and really talk about how do we implement hydrogen hubs, in this case, hydrogen valleys and clusters. In the US, we call them hubs. Very interesting opportunity right now, both in Europe, US, as well as everywhere else in the world, to bring partnerships together around local demand and supply and create these clusters. So I'm going to invite Thibaut Schell to the stage. He's Senior Engineer, Hydrogen Compression, Storage and Transportation with NextGem, and he will introduce the next panel. Thibaut, to you. Thank you.
Hello to you all. Good morning. Thank you for this invitation. I'm really happy to be here. So as you said, now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about hydrogen valleys, clusters, or hubs. Sorry, I don't want to insult you, so I will use all the terms. Yeah, so this is going to be about valleys, collaboration, partnerships, taking all the pieces of the puzzle and try to actually build those hydrogen valleys. So today we have quite a nice panel here. We have different people. It's quite a diverse panel. I'm going to call on the stage first Mirela Atanasiou, so please come on stage. She's the head of Unit Operations and Communication at the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, which is a public-private partnership between the European Commission, Hydrogen Europe, and Hydrogen Europe Research. Thank you, Mirela. The second person that I'm going to call is Dr. Lily Liu. She is the head of business development at Envision Energy. They have a booth here, so you should really check it out. It's a Chinese company that is actually involved in green Power-to-X project in China, so in the Asia-Pacific region mainly. Thank you for being here. The third person, I couldn't text him this morning, so I hope he will show up now on stage, is Anton Martinez Rodriguez. He's the CEO at NAGA Renewable. Sorry, I don't speak Spanish. So they are in charge of developing green H2 projects and a biomethane project. And he's coming from Spain. And our fourth, last but not least, panelist is Christian Niesing. He's the head of Business Development Europe, and he's in charge of H2 mobility development from Total Energies. And he's coming from Berlin, Germany. Thank you. So, as I said, today we're going to talk about hydrogen valleys, and I think it's the perfect panel because we really have different people. We can start from, Mirela, she's going to talk to us about financing, subsidies, so it's really perfect to see how the projects get to life. Then if we move towards, from left to right, we can start about the upstream, production of renewables, production of hydrogen. Then we have distribution, so Anton is going to explain to us how he can move hydrogen from one place to another place in the different clusters. And then we have the end user, which is also key to the puzzle, because if there is no offtake, there is no project, right? So where do we start from? We can start from Mirela. So Mirela, maybe you can explain to us what you're doing and how your job helps to create projects, enable the creation of those hydrogen valleys, clusters, or hubs. You've been granted 200 million euros through the REPower EU to actually double the number of hydrogen valleys by 2025. So is this something realistic? How are you going to do that? And if you can explain to us how it works, basically.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Really pleased to be here today and to talk about the hydrogen valleys. I'm representing, as is written there, the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, and I'm heading the operations and the communications mainly. I have a team in total for the partnership of 30 people. So we are 30 people mandated by our members. You already mentioned European Commission on the public side, but also Hydrogen Europe Research on the private side. Mandated to first develop the technologies, and then I get to the valleys. But first we have, with the Clean Hydrogen Partnership put in place 2 years ago under the main framework program of the European Commission on Research and Innovation, we have 1 billion to develop technologies across the entire value chain of hydrogen from the production, mainly renewable hydrogen production technologies, storage, distribution, including carriers, end uses, both transport, and clean heat and power. And we also support with funding the so-called cross-cutting activities such as safety measures, education training, because we just heard about skills, pre-normative research, input into standards, and finally, innovative, how I call them, innovative business model such as valleys. On top of the 1 billion that I just mentioned, we have indeed received last year 200 million under the Repower EU to indeed double the number of the hydrogen valleys. Hydrogen valleys, we started working on that back in 2016. We came with this idea, starting working with the local actors. You also mentioned that. Local actors, regions, in particular cities. That's when we realized that with the technology that we are developing, we really need local actors to partner with and to put in place such local ecosystems. And why valleys? Because you're also wondering about maybe the terminology. And why hubs, why clusters? Because we got a bit of inspiration from, if you want, Silicon Valley. What that means not only creating the green ecosystem around hydrogen, but also building up on the local skills through the so-called smart specialization. This is a terminology we use, meaning use the knowledge that is in there locally, not only from the industry that is there, but also from the academia that maybe is there, from the research organizations, from the citizens. Why not create jobs in the region with these valleys?
And how do you track those skills?
But that's a good question, of course. Through the valleys that we implement, we try and we push every single valley to also look at these aspects, not only at the economical aspect, but also how to leverage on the existing skills in the valleys. So that's how we came to this idea, to come to your question, and I'll try to be short. And then we realized that, in fact, we have different level of knowledge and readiness, if you want, across Europe in implementing such innovative business models. And maybe some are ready to start the project, get a grant, get the financing, the funding for doing that, but some may need some technical assistance or even basic awareness of technologies. We have plenty of regions in Europe who are just learning about hydrogen. And we really need to do that first, maybe then help them develop the project, and then get to funding. So we have different streams that we have to work with these local people in order to be able to implement these valleys. I stop here because I think I can talk too much on
No,
that.
Thank you, it's really interesting. I could ask you a lot of more questions, but yeah, maybe let's move to the second panelist. Thank you, Mirella. So that now if we start to move throughout the value chain of hydrogen, we talked yesterday actually, and you explained to me a little bit what you were doing, and well, your company is active pretty much along the whole chain, but you told me that you're actually started as a company that provides wind turbines, so we can start in the chain and talking about, you know, renewables, also production of hydrogen, but then you also have other pieces in the puzzle. So how is your company playing with those pieces, and how do you manage to actually create hydrogen valleys, or at least help creating those valleys? If you can explain to us a bit.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Thibault. It's really a nice opportunity for me to be here, introduce about what we are doing within innovation. Maybe a few words about myself and our company. So my name is Lily Lu. My background is material science. Previous panels about technology background. And now I'm responsible for the business development within Innovation Hydrogen. So maybe I'm not sure if everyone knows Innovation as a group. I will give a few words about our company. So Innovation Group is a net zero technology partner. Within our group, we have different business sectors, including wind turbine business, battery storage business, as well as hydrogen. Besides that, we also have digital entity, as well as AESC, which is a supplier for electrical vehicle battery. So back to what Thibault mentioned, the questions, what we are doing for hydrogen, because I'm within the group of Innovation Hydrogen. So as you can see now, a lot of companies, they are trying to prolong their value chain, either upside, either downside. So we have our existing business for wind turbine. Now we have around 50 gigawatts of the wind turbine installed globally. And now we would like to try to store the electricity from wind turbine into power to axis. So even though we called ourselves hydrogen team, but we are not only doing hydrogen, we are doing all the things related to hydrogen and the derivatives. So for example, if we are trying to build a green hydrogen plant, what matters? It's always about where we can find the best location for renewable plant. And how can you configure optimized chemical plant? And between that, how can you manage the energy management system? How become these two different sectors connect together? And as I mentioned before, emission, we have our business for wind, renewable power, we have our digital, now we have our hydrogen chemical part. I think emission will have a very, very unique position to provide a full and integrated value chain along hydrogen. And that actually is what I mentioned to Thibault yesterday, that emission, we are building our own green ammonia plant in China. I'm not going to make it a lot of details. I'm sure there will be questions from Thibault afterward. But I just want to say, hydrogen, green hydrogen is not easy. We have a lot of things to settle. And even though when we are optimize the whole project, there are more than 10 parameters need to be optimized at the same time. And then we need a transparency between renewable sectors, digital sectors, chemical sectors, process sectors. And that is actually what emission we are trying to do and we are trying to achieve. I would like to stop here. Thanks, Thibault.
You can go on if you want, but what would be actually nice to know as well is, I mean, when we talk about hydrogen valleys, we talk a lot about what's happening in Europe, or we can talk about what's happening in terms of hubs in the US, but I mean, what's happening in China in terms of hydrogen valleys, or if you call it that way as well. And how do you create hydrogen valleys, and how do you, let's say, connect the different local areas? I mean, you have a lot of ports in China. I think in the top 10 ports in the world, a lot of are Chinese, so this is probably a good place to start if you want to offtake. But in terms of local, I mean, how do you start? Where do you get the offtake? How do you get finance? Maybe you can give us a little bit of, information of what's happening also in China.
Now or later? No? Okay.
No, now. I mean, if you want to.
Yeah. Sure, thanks for the question. It's really a good question. So talking about hydrogen in China, I would like to start with the current policies or the trend in China. So maybe I think you already know that in China, we have established our policy for green hydrogens, maybe up back to 2019, 2020. But that is more on hydrogen for mobility. So government really put a lot of effort on building refilling stations, like transfer the vehicles to hydrogen vehicles. It's very good, because that sector can be very much initiated by the government. But when we are talking about hydrogen as energy, I think mobility is one of the sectors. The biggest one will be the industry sectors. So back to our project, we evaluate all the possibilities around China, how we can build a most or best project. There are preconditions. First, you have to find a place with a very good renewable resource, including wind and solar, and a combination of wind and solar. Second, water is very, very important. We have really a big learning curve on understanding of it, because as we know that the Earth, the globe is very fair. The place has a lot of renewable energy, normally speaking, there are lack of water. So it's really not so easy to find a place that has both the renewable energy and the water. So back to our project, we are quite lucky, find a place with a very good renewable energy together with water. Next is about how to make the molecules in the market, how to sell the molecules. It's always very challenging. So we need to find a place. Either you have the surrounding local industries has already the consumers, or either we want to export to the international market. Then you need to find the port, infrastructure, transportations, and also you need to find the end customers. So in our project, we're lucky again. Our production site is quite close to the port. I have to say, it's the closest site that we can find in China, has all the conditions together. That's why we think now we're not only producing molecules in China, we're also trying to build the infrastructure, like we're building the port. And in the same time, we also have a platform of the tradings, trying to see the opportunities in Singapore, Japan, Korea, even in Europe. This is what we're doing.
Okay, well, really interesting. Thank you for these insights about what's happening in China as well. Maybe we will move to our third panelist. So if we keep moving along the chain, Anton, thank you for being here again. And we're going to talk about, well, distribution infrastructures in Spain. You have also developments of the backbone in Spain. You're going to develop some pipelines, some hydrogen pipeline. There is also the H2Med project. But maybe those pipelines are actually helping, well, connecting different valleys between themselves or even different countries, Spain with France or other countries, but on a more, let's say, local. If we keep talking about valleys, hubs, and clusters, what is your company doing and what are your takes on that? And how do you think, well, distribution is like the missing link and is really important to connect production to the end users or to the Power2X project?
Okay, thanks, Thibault, and thanks very much for inviting us to this very interesting panel. Only a few words about NAGA Renewable. We are a Spanish renewable gases developer, in which we are developing both biomethane and hydrogen projects, mainly in Spain. And our structuring shareholder is 60% Enagás, that is the Spanish TSO, 30% Hy24, that is the GP of Ardian and 5T, and 5% of Pontegadea, the investment branch of Mr. Amartyo Ortega, and 5% of Navantia, that is a state-owned company. We are developing projects in Spain, mainly focused in this concept of valleys. And I would like to share with you one example of a valley that is already built. That is the Mallorca Green Hydrogen Valley. Why? Because we strongly believe that the way of learning is by doing. So that we are taking advantage of already built, I would say, a small scale valley, because it's at 2.5 megawatts with a 14 megawatts solar plant, but it's already a reality. How do we achieve a reality, and we were discussing the last panel, and how do we achieve an FID, that is what is missing today in the industry? First of all, promoting the private and public collaboration. This project has received a 10 million euros subsidy from the Clean Hydrogen Partnership in 2020, in August 2020. But this subsidy was not incentivized only the production, it was incentivized production, consumption, research, and also distribution. So that the Clean Hydrogen Partnership helped the 4 pieces that is needed to have a real project and to test a real business model. Also, we incentivize the private and private collaboration. This valley is leading by 2 companies that are NAGA Renewable and Acción Energía, that are 2 completely different companies, one coming from the gas world, the other one coming for the electricity sector, that join forces to trigger a project in a new sector in which this collaboration is needed. And also, the off-takers. The off-takers are part of the consortium, in which we have inside the consortium the Municipality and Transport Company of Mallorca, that acquired 5 hydrogen buses to have real demand on the island. Private companies like Iberostar, I would say one of the leading hotel companies in the island, that acquired a fuel cell to produce heat and electricity in one of his hotels, and also public buildings or public institutions like the Port of Mallorca, that is going to decarbonize part of these uses with a fuel cell. So that what is the learning? That we need to put all the pieces together, both private and private-public collaboration together, also collaborate with distribution companies like Redexis, that is the operator, the distribution company in the area that is going to allow hydrogen to be injected in the gas network, to use part of the hydrogen to be consumed as a blended with the natural gas, and also research and education institutions, in which we are training people to operate and maintain the plant. It's a small-scale project, but these lessons learned are going to apply to the next valleys, we are working in, I would say, large oil and gas and petrochemical areas in Spain to have real projects and real valleys. And it's where we strongly believe that the hydrogen business is going to start.
Okay, thank you very much also for this comment. So it seems that it's really hard to find all the pieces and to get them, aligned from the financing to the actual doing the project. But do you think, is this the best way to do projects and to provide hydrogen on a local point of view? Or, I mean, what's your opinion in that?